Hello everyone and welcome everyone to the AutoCAD 3D Mechanical Modeling webinar brought to you by Topcon Solutions Store. I am your host, Joshua Hickey. I'd like to start by acknowledging how precious everyone's time is, and I sincerely thank you all for joining me today for this presentation. I assure you this will be time well spent. Several weeks ago, we did a 3D architectural webinar that brought up a plethora of questions. The main questions revolved around using 3D in a mechanical realm, so we decided to answer those questions with this webinar. About me. For my background, I worked production for over 13 years across several different industries, from the RV industry to orthopedics, steel, electrical, and fiber optics. During my journey, I held positions from design tech to design department supervisor. Now I'm a technical specialist with Topcon, helping with software instructions such as AutoCAD, Map 3D, and Civil 3D. About us. Topcon Solutions is a retail arm of Topcon Positioning Systems, a world leader in construction layout, machine automation, and land surveying products. Along with selling the complete portfolio of Topcon products, Topcon Solutions is a platinum tier and award-winning Autodesk value-added reseller. We're also a platinum level Bluebeam partner, and we have certified instructors on staff. We have retail stores and service locations in the Pacific Northwest, the Midwest, and throughout the Northeast. As you can see on the map, you can kind of see the locations and where they're located at. We offer a state-of-the-art training with certified instructors, currently offering online training and some in-person training, along with unparalleled technical support and service just a phone call away in our brick and mortar locations to keep your software, hardware, and equipment humming right along. Today, what we're going to do is we're actually going to be taking a mechanical drawing of a butterfly valve, and we're going to end up making it into a 3D model so we can check fit and finish and also kind of have a rendering of it so you can see exactly how everything gets put together. We're going to be using commands like extrude, subtract, and union. We're going to be rotating objects in the 3D environment, and we're going to create and manipulate assemblies within the 3D environment as well. Along the ways, there's going to be some best practices and stuff that I'm going to be pointing out as I'm going through and actually doing this 3D model. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and fire up AutoCAD 2022. You should be able to do all this stuff that I'm doing in 2020, 2021, even as far back as 2016 if you want to. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take a look at what I have to deal with. It looks like I have 5 different parts when it comes to this butterfly valve. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have my 3D tools tab up here visible and able to use. If you don't have that visible, all you have to do is come over here and right click, show tabs, and click your 3D tools. And at that point, it's going to bring that up. You're going to see me navigating between this tab and my views tab as I'm doing some 3D modeling and assembling this butterfly valve. So you definitely want to make sure that you have at least these 2 tabs available for you when you're doing this. So the first thing that I normally do is when I go through and I start modeling is I keep the original line work and the dimensions and stuff, I keep those intact. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy everything over, and I'm just going to put it over here someplace away from where all the original stuff's at. The next thing I'm going to do is when you're 3D modeling, you don't have to have the center lines or all the dimensions or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all those. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and shut off all the layers of the line work. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to go ahead and delete all that stuff. Then I'll go ahead and turn everything back on. This way, so all I have is my line work here. So we're going to tackle each thing one part at a time. I'm going to go ahead and start with the simplest part up here. And one thing when it comes to doing 3D models, you always want to make sure that everything's made into a polyline. So for example, this ellipse right here, this oval, that's a polyline, so I would be able to actually extrude that right off the bat. Other things like this line, I would have to end up making those into polyline. And when we get to that part, I'll show you how I'm going to make that happen. So this first piece right here, I'm going to go ahead and check the thickness of the side view because I need to know how far back I'm going to extrude it. So let me go ahead and turn on my object snaps. I'm going to go ahead and check the dimension, and it looks like it's a 0.063. So I'm going to come up to my 3D tools. I'm going to select Extrude. I'm going to window and select all three entities right here. As soon as I select it, I'm going to hit enter. It's going to prompt me for how far back I want to extrude it, and we're going to extrude it 0.063. Now you notice that these holes are still filled in right here. And what we have to do is we actually have to subtract these two small cylinders from this overall piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here. I'm going to select subtract. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select the piece that I want to keep. So I'm going to select this big piece right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And then I'm going to select the pieces that I want to subtract from. So I'm going to select these two small cylinders. And the moment I hit enter, it subtracted the two holes out of that plate right there. At this point, we are actually finished with this piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this off to the side, kind of get it out of the way and out of my little work area. I'm going to go ahead and delete the side view because I don't need it anymore. The next piece, I'm going to go to the second most simplest one. It's going to be this piece right here. And it's going to be the same concept as this. I'm going to figure out what the thickness is. I'm going to extrude everything, and then I'm going to subtract all the holes out from the inside. So let's go ahead and go into the distance command. I'm going to go ahead and measure this, and it looks like it's 0.25. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to select extrude. I'm going to grab all the entities. And then when it asks for how far back, I'm going to type in 0.25. At this point, I'm going to come back, or I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to take my subtract command. I'm going to select the piece that I want to keep, hit enter, and I'm going to select the pieces that I want to subtract. And I'm going to hit enter again. And then at that point, we got this piece finished right here. I got all the holes in there. It's at the proper thickness. I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side too. Next, I'm going to do this arm piece right here. This one's a little bit more complicated, but it's not too complicated. So one thing I do want to point out is I do have, or these two circles along with this and this is actually already a polygon. It's a closed polygon. But the thing that I wanted to point out is these are just lines right here. So in order for me to extrude this area right here, I need to make that into a polygon. The easiest way to do it is by the boundary command. So you can just type in BO, you see boundary pops up there. I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter. You're gonna have this pop up, this menu pop up right here. It's the boundary creation menu. All you have to do is go ahead and select the pick points. And then you just pick a point inside this area and you're gonna see it kind of highlight. And as soon as you get that, go ahead and hit enter. And as you can see with the blue that popped up, it became a polyline or a polygon now. At this point, I can go ahead and start extruding all the parts. So the first thing I'm going to double check is I'm going to go into the distance command. I'm going to see how thick this is, and it looks like it's 0.625. I'm going to check this side as well, and that is 0.625 as well. So I'm going to go into the extrude command. And at this point, since both entities are going to be the same thickness, I can actually select both sides and I can extrude those at the same time since they're going to both be the same thickness. So we're just going to type in 0.625. Going to come into my subtract command. I'm going to select the outer piece. I'm going to window and select the internal piece. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to hit enter, go back into subtract, select that, hit enter, select that, and now I got those two pieces. The next thing that I need to do is extrude this thinner center piece. So I'm just going to come down, do the distance command. I'm going to see how thick it is. It looks like it's 0.251. So I'm going to go ahead and come up to the extrude. I'm going to select that polyline. I'm going to do 0.251. So the one thing to keep in mind is when you extrude, it automatically places everything at Z0. So if you notice, we have this gap right here. So I'm actually going to have to go into a different view and move that up. So the first thing I'm going to do before I go into that different view, so I'm going to type in distance. I'm going to see what that distance needs to be. And it looks like it's 0.187. I'm going to go ahead and use the orbit command. And what this is think of it kind of like pan, but in the 3D realm. You can kind of just click, drag and drop and move around. You're going to be seeing me use that command as I'm kind of looking around and placing different things. As you can see now is everything's at Z0, so I need to go ahead and move this up in the Z axis in order to get it so it's centered. And remember, it's 0.187. So one thing that I like to do when I'm trying to move things is I do turn on my ortho. So you can either hit F8 or you can touch the button down here. And I'm going to go ahead and select this. I'm going to type in move. And then you're going to notice that I can take it straight up and down. If you wanted to, you could go in the X, you can go in the Y. I'm wanting to go in the Z axis. At this point, I'm going to move it up 0.187. Now you can see that, hey, that looks just like this side view right here. So the other thing that you're going to notice is when it comes to this piece, we technically for one part have 3 different 3D entities that's part of this. Once everything looks good, you can go ahead and use the union command, which is right up here. Go ahead and select that, and then you just select the parts that you need. And once you have everything selected, you can hit enter. And now everything is one piece. So at this point, we're done with this handle. I'm going to go ahead, just like with the other piece, I'm going to move it off to the side. I'm going to actually move these further up, kind of out of the way. So the other thing that I do want to point out is when you extrude, it automatically puts it in whatever layer you're on. That's why everything is blue. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on the proper layers now that I'm thinking about it. So that's going to be the retainer. This is going to be the plate. And that is going to be the arm. So at this point, we're going to come back over here. Let's go to the view. I'm going to go to top view. I'm going to go ahead and delete that section there since we're done with that line work. The next, we're going to end up doing this shaft right here. As you can tell, there's a couple different diameters. There's a flat spot. There's a couple holes in it. Looks like this piece right here is actually a square piece with the hole going through it. So this one's going to be a little bit more complex than the other parts that we've just done. It's not going to be a big deal to actually do it, and I'm going to walk you step by step through it. So this one, I'm going to go ahead and make a copy and go ahead and put it up just north of it. And I like making multiple copies. I might not use every last copy that I have, but it's nice just having multiple line works there, because then after I finish one feature, if I need to go back and copy something different, I have it right there at my hand or at my fingertips. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I know that that is a rectangle or a square. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that section. I know the rest of this is a round piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean out the center right here. I'm going to go ahead and just clean out all the line work. I'm going to use the trim command. I'm going to trim everything out. Next, I'm going to draw in a line from the midpoint to midpoint. So think of it kind of like the center line of that. And the ultimate goal that I'm trying to do is I want a nice clean profile of what this piece of bar is. Once I have that, I'm going to type in BO. I'm going to go ahead and select inside, and it doesn't matter which side you choose. I'm going to choose the top one. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And then sometimes you'll notice that the line work's still there instead of the actual polyline. You can go ahead and select that and delete that stuff just to get it out of your way. And you can see that now I got the closed polygon right there. So now that I have this profile view, I'm actually going to do the revolve command. The revolve command, I guess the best way to explain it, think of it like the mirror command, but in a 3D realm. So I'm going to go ahead and select revolve. I'm going to select that profile. I'm going to hit enter. And then now at this point, I'm going to select the center axis that I want to revolve around. So I'm going to go ahead and select here to here. You're going to notice that it took that profile and it revolved it around that axis. Now it's asking me at what degrees do I want. You could do a 90 degree, a 180 degree. In this particular instance, I want it to be a 360 degrees. So it defaults at 360. I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter. And then if I go into the orbit command, you're going to see kind of what happened. It took that profile view on this side and it revolved it around that center axis. And at a 360. So now I have a perfectly round bar at the proper diameters. Let's go ahead and go back to the top view. So the next thing that I'm noticing is I have this notch that is knocked out of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a 3D model of this rectangle and then go ahead and put it up here. So I'm just going to type in the line command. I'm going to close that. I'm going to do the boundary. I'm going to select inside here. Then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extrude. And at this point, since all I'm doing is cutting it out, all I want to make sure is that however far back I extrude this is the same or a longer length than the thickness of this bar. And you'll see why here in a minute. Let's go to extrude. I'm going to go ahead and grab that. And let's just choose 3 inches. So there we go. At this point, now I need to go ahead and move this up to this bar. So I'm going to choose the orbit command. I'm going to go ahead and get it in a view that I can see. And so usually when I'm messing around with multiple different 3D objects, I like to change the color of them just so it makes it a little bit easier to distinguish between the parts. So let's go ahead and make this a red. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move this. I'm going to reference the midpoint right here, and I'm going to move it to the midpoint right there where you can see the line work from the previous view. And then you're going to notice that when I take a look at it, it's there, but I also need to move it down in the Z so it goes all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and do the move command again. We're going to move it straight down. And now that you can see that it's going all the way through the part, I'm going to go ahead and subtract this bar or this out of the shaft right here to get that nice notch in there. Let's go ahead and delete that out of the way. So I'm going to come to the 3D models. I'm going to go ahead and select, lost my place. There it is, subtract. I'm going to select the bar. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to select this. And at this point, you're going to notice that now I have my notch in there. Next thing that I need to do is I actually need to rotate this so the flat is looking up at me like it is in this view so I can go ahead and punch those holes out. So let's go to the view. I'm going to go to the right view. I'm going to come over here and you can see the bar right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and this is just your standard rotate command. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees. And what you'll see is when I actually come up here and move it around, it rotated 90 degrees. So now I can match this view right here. Let's go ahead and come back to the top view just so it's nice and square and I can see everything. At this point, much like we did with this, I'm going to extrude these and I'll do those at 3 inches as well. And then I'm going to use the midpoint from here to the midpoint here to place it. And then you'll see me do a move command so it goes all the way through. And then you'll see me do the subtract command to get those holes punched in. So let's come up to the 3D tools, the extrude command. I'm going to go ahead and select both of these. It's going to ask me for a distance. I'm going to type in 3. I'm going to use the orbit and kind of kick off into an ISO view. And then I'm just going to go ahead and move these. And much like the other piece, like I said, we're going to go ahead and go from midpoint to midpoint. And then I can show you right here how it's not going all the way through the part. So we're going to go ahead and do the move command, and we're going to move these down in the Z. And there's no specified distance. You just want to make sure it's going all the way through. As soon as I have that done, I'm going to come up to the subtract command. I'm going to select the bar, hit enter, select those, and then now I got my holes punched in there, as you can see. The last piece that we have is we have this square piece with the hole punched through it. I'm going to go ahead and do that piece now. I'm going to come to the top view. And at this point, I know this is a square. There's a hole that's going to be punched through it. All I need to know at this point is I just need to know how far back it goes. So right now it's at 0.625. I'm going to double check and make sure, so that's a closed polygon. I know the circle is. We're going to come back. We're going to do extrude. I'm going to grab both of them. We're going to go back 0.625. I'm going to go ahead and use the subtract command. I'm going to grab the square, hit enter, window, and grab the circle. And now I got that hole punched in there. The last thing I need to do is I actually need to rotate this 90 degrees, and I'm going to go ahead and place it here. So in order for me to rotate it, I want to look at it from the front view, which is coming from the south if you want to look at it that way. I'm going to go to view, come to the front view. At this point, I'm going to type in the rotate command. It's your standard rotate. And I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. At this point, I'm just going to come into orbit and kind of kick it off in that ISO view. And you can change your different views up here. You have conceptual, you have hidden, realistic, so on and so forth. I want to be able to see that center of that hole on this backside. I'm going to place it right there at the midpoint or the center of that hole or of that circle. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click it down, go to 2D wireframe. And you can still see the profile line work. So I'm either going to be snapping at the midpoint or at the center of this circle. It all depends whichever snap pops up. But now you can actually see that circle on the backside. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it, type in move. I'm going to grab the center snap right here. At this point, I'm going to snap it right there. And then I'm going to come back to the conceptual view. I like the way it looks. You could technically, if you want to, grab realistic, shaded with edges, however, whichever one you prefer. I like conceptual myself. So at that point, I'm going to do an orbit, kind of inspect the part, make sure everything looks good. Everything's looking good there. Got my holes, got my area kind of cut out there. Once everything looks good, it's like the other part. We have two separate 3D entities. I'm going to go ahead and union those. So one thing to keep in mind that I didn't mention before is when you union 3D parts, it's not like doing a join as a polyline or anything like that. If you union these parts, you can explode it and separate it into these two parts again. So it is always crucial to kind of do a nice, good, thorough look over before you do union, because once you do it, there is no going back without actually hitting the back button. That's the only way. So I'm going to go ahead and union these. And as you can see right now everything is one part. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to throw this on its layer now. That is going to be the shaft. You're going to notice that you still have the red there. And the reason that was is when I subtracted it, took the red that I made that color and placed it there. If you want to fix that, go ahead and select it. Just change the color to one color and then change it back to by layer. And you're going to notice that now everything's fixed. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side as well. There we go. I'm going to come back to the top view. I'm going to go ahead and delete all that line work. I am done with the shaft. Everything's good to go. I'm going to go ahead and move this a little bit further out. There we go. So the last piece that I have right here is the body. There's a lot going on with this body. It is rather complex. It's nothing to get too worked up about. You always have to kind of tackle these things at one step at a time. And you just have to kind of think of that mentality. So the first step that I'm going to do is I notice that I have this body right here that's going the full length. And then I notice that these flanges right here, I have one set on top and one set on bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do those first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make another set of copies, kind of like what we did with the shaft. I'm going to move it over, let's say 6 inches. So I know for a fact that if I mess something up, I can copy it back over here 6 inches. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to end up drawing a circle. And we're going to go ahead and make that so that circle's enclosed like that. At this point, I'm going to do the distance command. We're going to see how far it needs to go. So 2.25 is what I need. At this point, I'm going to come up to my 3D tools. We're going to extrude. And actually, I forgot what that distance was. Let me double check. 2.25. So let's go ahead and do extrude. I'm going to extrude this 2.25. And like with the other parts, I'm going to have to use my subtract command. So I'm going to select subtract. I'm going to grab this outside circle, hit enter, grab the inside, and now we have the body there. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and do these flanges. I'm going to use the boundary command. I'm going to pick my points. I'm going to select here, here, and here. That's the way so I can get those flanges in there. I'm going to go ahead and check the distance, 0.313. So now I'm going to go ahead and extrude the flanges, 0.313. So I'm going to grab extrude, going to window, select, 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 0.313. And then like with this hole here, I'm going to go ahead and subtract these center holes. So let's come up here, subtract, subtract. Let me see. There we go. And I think that one actually had a couple of extra circles in there. So if at any time you have several circles in there that are on top of each other, when you go to extrude, sometimes you might have 3 or 4 of those solids in there. So it might be a good practice to kind of do an overkill when you're doing this. As you notice, I deleted 2 internal circles already. There's 1 left, so I should be able to do the subtract from here and then select it, and then it should punch that hole now. There you go. So the next thing is we're going to pop off into orbit and take a look. So like with the other pieces, when you extrude, it puts everything at the Z0. And I want to go ahead and copy these flanges up and get them lined up with this top lip up here. As you can see in this view, you have 2 sets of flanges here. So I'm just going to go ahead and come here. I'm going to select these. And one thing that I want to point out, you see this right here? That is actually a surface. And what that was is I accidentally grabbed a line and extruded the line with it. If you ever see these and you grab one, just go ahead and delete it. You don't need it there. So I'm going to go ahead and there's another one. I'm going to go ahead and grab all 3 flanges. I'm going to do the copy command. I'm actually going to copy it up 2.25. And you're going to notice that it's a fuzz too far, and it's just easier as far as doing math in my head to copy it up the length of this body. And then we're just going to go ahead and move it down the thickness of those flanges, which is 0.313. So now we have the main body done. Now we have this piece right here on the front of it that's actually going to attach to this face. For right now, what I'm going to do, just so I can make all these pieces one, I'm going to actually use the union command. Go ahead and union stuff now. That's the way so I don't have to worry about having multiple pieces out there. There we go. So let's go ahead and do this front part of the body now. I'm going to come back to the top view. So I'm going to go over here. I'm actually going to end up copying this view back over here because some of the hidden lines and stuff, we're actually going to be using that for some information. So we're just going to go ahead and copy that there. At this point, I'm going to clean up the dimensions in the center line because we still don't need those, but I do need the hidden lines though. So one thing that I do want to point out is we do have this cylinder. It's going to be coming in and actually being on that face, but you also have these 2 circles here. One's a countersink that's coming in, and the other one's actually going to be shooting all the way through and partially into the other side of the wall. So that's why we wanted the hidden lines. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to figure out how far back I need this outside circle to be, and it looks like 0.606. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an extrusion. I'm going to grab that circle and also these screw holes. I'm going to extrude those 0.606. And you're going to notice that now I can't see those things right there. It's not a big deal. We're going to go ahead and subtract those screw holes, and I'm going to move it off to the side. That's the way so I can focus on the internal stuff now. So let's go ahead and subtract those. I'm going to grab that. We're going to go ahead and just move it off to the side, and I'm just going to move it 3 inches. I know the distance. That's the way so when I extrude these, I can just throw those off there, and I know everything's going to be lined up. This outside circle, which is your countersink, I'm going to go ahead and extrude that now. So I'm going to figure out how far I need to go. And it looks like 0.25. I'm going to go ahead and do the extrude. 0.25. Going to go ahead and move that over 3 inches just to get it out of the way. The next one is going to end up extruding, and I'm going to go a 2.813. So let's go to extrude, 2.813. I'm going to move that over 3 inches just so I know where it's at. So at this point, you can take a look. I got my countersink. I got this piece right here. I also got the further one that goes further back. One thing you'll notice is I'm going to have to rotate it a negative 90 degrees so I can place it right here on the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come to the right-hand view. So if you're kind of wondering how I'm figuring out what views I need to go to, I need to look at it from the right-hand side, looking this way. So I'm going to come to the right-hand view. And as you can see right there, at this point, I'm going to make sure I select everything. I'm going to do the rotate command. And I'm actually going to rotate a negative 90 degrees. That's the way so I got everything orientated how I need to. It should look just like that. So the best way for me to actually place this properly on this face right here is I'm actually going to use the center of this shaft. I'm going to draw a construction line on this face. So I just went into the line command. I'm going to select the midpoint here to the midpoint there, and then I can actually use the midpoint of this line for the center of this circle. So let's go ahead and grab everything. I'm going to type move. I'm going to grab the center. I'm just going to go ahead and use the midpoint like that. And at that point, you can actually delete that line right there. Last but not least, you're going to notice that doesn't quite look like this view right here. And it's not a big deal. We're just going to go ahead and use the move command. So I'm just going to go ahead and select everything. I'm going to type in move. I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to reference this right here, just like that. Go ahead and kick it off into an ortho view. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do union this with the body, and then I'm going to subtract those 2 internal pieces. So let's come up to 3D tools, union. I'm going to select the body and this outside piece. There we go. And then last but not least, I'm going to select subtract. I'm going to grab the body. I'm going to window and grab those 2 shafts. And now you can actually see we got the countersink in there. It kind of goes through on the other side. You can kind of see right there. At this point, we got all the pieces we need. We're going to go ahead and start assembling this. So I'm going to come back to the top view. I'm going to go ahead and put this on its proper layer. So let's go ahead and put this on the body layer. I'm going to move it up here. Now let's start going through and assembling everything right here. So when we're assembling it, we have this plate that is going to attach here. That shaft is going to go in here. You have this retainer ring right here that's going to bolt right there. And then of course you have this handle that's going to fit right here. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to be going through and you're going to be seeing me use rotate a lot. I'm going to be jumping in different views and stuff like that so I can manipulate everything and get them in the right orientation that they need to. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rotate this body, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and do that. The next piece I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into an orbit and kind of do an ortho. I'm going to go ahead and put this plate right here on this piece right here. And the easiest way to do it is I'm going to go ahead and reference these holes. So I'm going to grab the center, and you're going to notice two different center ticks. The one on the top is for this top circle, and I want the one on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and reference this center right here. I'm going to go ahead and place it right there. So you're probably wondering, is there a way to actually bring in some type of hardware or anything like that? There's actually a neat little tool. McMaster-Carr has been doing this for a long time, and a lot of people don't know about it. So if you jump onto McMasterCarr.com and go ahead and write this down, it's McMaster.com, McMaster. You're going to notice that they have a lot of different hardware and stuff here. So for example, say if you wanted a bolt, you can go ahead and select screws and bolts, figure out what kind of bolt that you want. So say if it's a socket head screws, go ahead and figure out which type of socket head screw you want. Say if we just stick with this one, you got your different types of material for that socket head screw. Let's just go ahead and select the first one. They're going to notice that it pops up, and they give you every size that you can think of as far as the links and everything like that. So after you end up figuring out, like say if you wanted let's come down here and get something a little bit bigger, like a 1224, and you want it to be 1 1/4 inches. Say if that's the one that you want, you're going to notice that the part number over here. Go ahead and click that. Then you're going to see product details. And then if you click that, it brings you to this screen. So when it comes to different screws, washers, nuts, bolts, they even have bearings in here. You get to this screen, you actually come over here, and it gives you a couple different options. So when it comes to AutoCAD, if you just want a 2D drawing, you can select 2D drawing, and it gives you this right here. If you want a 3D model, you have to download the 3D Solidworks model. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to download it. And then what it does, it downloads into your download folder and stuff. And then if you want to bring it into your CAD file, all you have to do is go to the top view, is you type in import. And this isn't the same bolts that I just got done downloading. This is some other ones that I've done, but it's the same concept. So for example, if I select this, you're going to see this pop up, click close. You're going to see a window pop up. And the moment you click this link, it's going to import that part. And it imports it right here at the 000. So if I zoom in, right there is that bolt. So definitely use McMaster-Carr, and all it is the import function when it comes to AutoCAD to bring that SolidWorks part into AutoCAD. You don't have to worry about modeling the screws or anything, and everything's 100% to spec. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. I already imported the hardware that I needed. So let's come up to the top view. So the first piece of hardware I need to do is these 2 screws. And like I said, I already have them put in there. I have those screws right there. Let's come up to the top view. And actually, I have those at a 45 degree. I'm going to go ahead and rotate those. Let's come to the right-hand view. There we go. Let's go ahead and find those screws. So those are at a 45. I'm going to rotate those 45 degrees. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and place those where they need to go. We're going to grab both of them. I already had them spaced and everything placed and stuff, so I don't have to worry about doing that. Normally, you would just end up taking one, copying it, and moving it over. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reference the center mark. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to make everything, or the only one for my snaps at center. Let's go ahead and grab right there. And at that point, I'm going to come up here. I'm just going to snap it to the center marks right there. There we go. So now I have that piece assembled. I'm going to go ahead and put the handle on. So the handle, I'm going to have to come into the front view and look this way and rotate it 90 degrees. So let's come to the front view. Going to grab it, rotate, and we're going to do a -90, just like that. Going to go ahead and orbit so I can kind of see what I'm doing. And as you notice, you got that square, so you can go ahead and just slide it on. I'm actually going to have to turn on my object snaps again. Let's go ahead and turn them all on. I'm going to come over here, type in move. I'm going to grab that midpoint. I'm going to snap it to this midpoint, which I'm kind of guessing right here. If you want to do like we did last time and actually go into the 2D wireframe, you can do that as well. But I end up getting lucky. I snapped it right. So now we have that part on there. I do have another piece of hardware. I got this bolt and that washer there. So I'm going to go ahead and just move that. I'm going to use these center snaps. So come here. Got that center snap right there. I'm just going to snap it to the center right here. And now we have that piece of hardware there. At this point, I'm ready to actually insert this into this hole right here. But the one thing that I already know just by designing this and stuff, I actually have to kick this at a 45-degree angle. So let's go ahead and come to the right-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and just grab everything. I'm going to do a rotate. I'm just going to rotate it -45. This way, so it's like that. And then at that point, I can go ahead and slide that into the body. At this point, I can just grab it, type in move. I'm going to reference this center mark right here. I'm going to place it and reference this center mark right there. So at that point, when you rotate around, you can start seeing how it's coming together. The last thing I need to do is I actually need to put this and slap it right here along with putting the bolts in. Then we'll be wrapping up as far as the 3D model of this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come to the top view. I'm going to take a look. So I'm going to notice that the orientation of this, I'm also going to have to line up with the circles right here. So I'm going to have to kind of pay attention when I'm going through and doing this. I'm going to have to make sure that I actually rotate this the proper direction that I need to. So let's see, what would be the best way? Let's come to the right side view. So the reason why I'm choosing the right side is I noticed that the one hole is directly down at the bottom right here. So I'm actually going to rotate it to the right up 90 degrees. So let's come up to the right. I'm going to rotate and do a -90. Then at that point, you're going to see why I did it that way. I got this hole right down here along with this one right here. At this time, I can come to the top view, rotate it 90 degrees, and then at that point, I can place it onto the 3D model. So let's come to the top view. At this point, I can rotate it either -90 or +90. It doesn't matter. So let's do a -90. I'm going to go ahead and orbit again, kind of go in an ortho. Then at that point, I can reference let's go into a 2D wireframe. I can reference the center snap of this circle to the center snap of this one. That's going to place it in there how I need it. Let's go ahead and come here. I'm going to type in move. I'm going to snap from that center mark to this center mark. And then at this point, we can come back and do the conceptual. I can see that, hey, everything fits there. You can see the holes all the way through. Last thing that I need to do is actually just put these 3 bolts right into where they need to go, which I already have them orientated. Normally you wouldn't have that. You would end up just copying one and of course just snapping it on all 3 circles. But since I already have them orientated correctly, I'm just going to go ahead and move. At this point, I'm going to grab that center right there. And there we go. At this point, you actually have a completed 3D model. Everything looks good. If you want to do kind of a nice transparent view, if you come over to your layers property, we can actually come into the body and use the transparency of this, which of course my transparency is way off into the right field. So if I was to go ahead and do a 50% transparency, let's go ahead and close that out. Now you can kind of see through the body and see all the pieces and where they go along with the shaft and stuff. So that being said, this actually concludes doing the 3D model of a butterfly valve. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them. If you've asked them kind of in the text chat, go ahead and we'll start answering those.
All right, Josh. Well, it appears that we do not have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you for spending your lunch break, or I guess it's lunch break on the East Coast, but thank you for spending some time with me and watching my webinar. I greatly appreciate it.
If you need to contact us for any questions or any webinar topics that you would like to hear from us, you can go ahead and reference the information on the screen. Josh has his personal information on there as well, but feel free to contact us at info@topconsolutions.com for any general inquiries. And we also have a support line for any support related inquiries, support@topconsolutions.com. Thank you again, everyone, for attending, and we look forward to seeing you on another webinar soon. Have a great day, everyone.